please help me out by pressing the thumbs up button, subscribing, sharing, and commenting. As you guys can see, I'm on the road, and I want to talk about recording the police. This is probably the 5th, maybe the 7th video that I have made regarding First Amendment audits, or sometimes First Amendment fraudits. I've done countless videos on recording the police and recording private security officers, but today I want to concentrate on recording the police. So I am subscribed to a number of First Amendment audit videos, and I'll put that in quotation marks, and I want to lay down the general rules of recording the police. Guys and gals, you can record the police all you want using the video recorder, if you even use those, a camera. You can use your cell phone. You can record the police performing public functions. Pretty much you can record a police activity as long as you're lawfully able to be in the area that you're recording from. Usually if you're recording from a public street, you can record from that public street, whatever the police are doing. If this is private property, like let's just say if you're entering someone else's yard to record, I guess the argument is, well, that's not public property. Well, it's private property, and you don't have a legal right to be there. However, the police officers usually don't have standing on having you leave the property, because that's not your property. It's someone else's property. That other person has to tell you to leave, or communicate to the officer that they want you to leave. Now, where recording the police actually becomes a crime is when you are recording and at the same time, well, not even recording, when you're interfering with a police investigation. You're delaying an arrest, you're interfering with the investigation, you're contaminating evidence. That's where it becomes a crime. And a lot of it just seems, it does seem like there's a lot of police officers making these mistakes of telling people they can't record when they can record. I admit it's kind of frustrating. But police are generally doing a great job on not telling people they cannot record when they can record. There are now, how do you get these numbers, Sean? Well, compare that to is it 1 million contacts, or is it like 1.8 million contacts a year that police make? You probably get, I mean, right now, if I did a search on these First Amendment audit videos, maybe 1,000. Maybe 1,000 videos would pop up. 1,000 videos compared to 1.8 million contacts. The police are doing a great job enforcing one's First Amendment right to record, in my opinion. It is pretty frustrating when you see these First Amendment auditors recording police, like in Florida, Miami area, the eastern states, and then you have these officers telling these people, no, you can't record. Guys, being in law enforcement and working private security, the history of working private security, it's very frustrating to watch. And then sometimes you get supervisors that also tell this person not to record, and again, it gets totally frustrating. I will say this, that police, just like anyone else, just like any other human being, they do deserve a level of respect. What I mean by that is you have these First Amendment auditors that are provoking violent responses from police, or you have them just antagonizing the police. Before, you just have somebody with the camera, right, recording police. Police say, hey, you can't record me. And that person recording didn't provoke the police. But now you actually have them provoking the police. You have people encouraging other people to not cooperate with the police, even though they might be making a lawful arrest. Time has changed at the last, I want to say 10 to 15 years. You get a lot of content creators that want to upload videos to YouTube And they're doing it for the views. They're doing it totally for the views, and they're trying to get the reaction. And unfortunately, there's a handful of police officers that give these First Amendment auditors just exactly what they want. They want that. They want that response. Okay. I could tell you where police have really lost. I don't want to say lost it, because that like implies a mental illness. I think that police officers should understand at what point in time the interference becomes delaying an investigation or interfering with police activity, which in most states it is a crime. You'll see a First Amendment auditor, right, across the street extracting occupants out of the car, extracting the driver out of the car, and all of a sudden they'll enter the sidewalk area, and then they'll start recording. That's one of these gray areas, guys, and I see a lot of police officers allowing it. If I'm put into that position, what I would do is I would ask this person, hey, you know what? I understand that you want to record what is going on. That's not a problem. But could you stand right here in this grassy area? Guys, the cameras nowadays, they're not like the cameras from the past. You can always zoom in and you can get great footage as well, but there is no need to be within arm's reach from a police officer making an arrest. If you're that person with the camera and a police officers they're making an arrest and you're within arm's reach of them, like of their back, and then you're encouraging this person like to not submit to custody, and the police have to redivert their attention to you, that is delaying a police investigation. You can be arrested for that. I just don't see a lot of police officers enforcing that, at least the ones I see on camera. What's to say that that there won't be a gang member, across the street when his buddies call him saying, hey, I'm being pulled over. All of a sudden that gang member show up, or somebody with ill intentions show up with a cell phone, and purportedly just start recording, right? While at the same time, maybe having a firearm on him. The police officer is distracted because the police officer is paying attention to the driver and everybody else he's extracting from the car, and this person's standing behind him. What's to say that this gang member can't just take him out? I mean, if I was a gang member, that's something that I would consider. So as a police officer, there is, you got to use your common sense, and you got to stand your ground sometimes, and don't let some of these First Amendment auditors walk all over you and impede into your investigation. Okay, a police officer again takes out a driver of a vehicle, handcuffs him, or I'm sorry, before he handcuffs him, takes all the items out of his pockets because he's conducting a search incident arrest, puts all those items on the trunk, and then you have a First Amendment auditor, right, with a cell phone camera, going like nearly on top of the trunk and recording all the contents on it. You can do that by stepping in an area that's away from this scene. And guys, a vehicle can be considered a crime scene. Sometimes you get these dope dealers driving around. They're tossing out usually not money, but they're usually tossing out all their dope out of the car while they're driving. They're cutting the corners. Sometimes these areas are crime scenes. As a First Amendment auditor, you do not have a right to be on top of that trunk. So I encourage police officers to enforce the law, to consider their safety. Now, what really irritates me is you have somebody that is already on the sidewalk. They're walking towards this incident, and all of a sudden the police kind of like yell at them, hey, you know what? We're doing investigation. What are you doing here? Well, first off, this pedestrian is merely trying not to get hit by traffic, and this is the only way. This is like the only route. So personally, what I do in the circumstances is, Well, first off, you shouldn't be searching a vehicle without another police officer present or another partner present. But I would ask my partner if that person can escort that person around this stop. Okay, that's one of the methods that you can use. But it really irritates me when you get officers yelling at citizens, bystanders, like, "Hey, don't interrupt my crime scene." Well, like, what other route are they going to take? So again, these are things to keep in mind. Guys, even something as simple as, a hit and run with injuries, okay, a traffic collision with injuries, the crime scene spreads out far away. Once again, if you're a police officer, you can direct these people that want to record um, to areas that don't interfere with the investigation. But as a police officer, you don't have to tolerate somebody with a camera stepping all over evidence, because in a traffic collision, you have headlight assembly that can be thrown 30 feet, 40 feet away from the point of impact. You can have tire impressions, skid marks, drag marks. There could be cell phone pieces on the floor, windshield. Guys, all of those things can be tied to the suspect involved in a hit and run. Your crime scene expands, and if there's a homicide investigation, the crime scene can be the whole block. Okay, so as a police officer, if you're a police officer, you want to be a police officer, I encourage you to encourage others not to contaminate your crime scene. At the same time, they have to be able to exercise the First Amendment right to free speech. All right, Alexander says hi. Hi, security guard channel. Security guard channel, nobody is provoking a police officer to violate the Constitution. No, nobody is violating, nobody's provoking a police officer to violate the Constitution. I didn't say that either. He says officers need to focus on the investigation and stop worrying about who's filming. I see what you're saying, but you have to understand that there are people who are not First Amendment auditors. They're not just filming, they're trying to interfere with the investigation. So he says civil liberties aren't dependent on what if gang members. You either respect constitutional rights or not. That's a topic of another story, but I think, I think this deserves more discussion. Professional Security Journal says officer safety, and that's a term that you hear a lot of police officers misuse, is for officer safety reasons. That's fine if it's for officer safety reasons, but you have to be able to articulate the reasoning for that. That's what I hear too much. Oh, well, I need to stand here for officer safety reasons. No, that officer needs to be able to articulate the reason. Professional Security Journal says 21-foot drill to counteract that remark. 21-foot drill. You have to be given some safe space area. Once again, that safe area that you designate cannot infringe on one's First Amendment right. Professional Security Journal says, and even then, so 21 feet ain't the standard anymore. Yeah, it's changed a lot. So there is a lot of dynamics with recording. Even the California Penal Code, I mean, we're one of the most liberal states ever, tells us that recording is not mere recording is not a crime. But we know that infringing on one's police investigation is. Joe Aguilar says, quit justifying 10 to 13 feet is more than enough distance. And Mr. Aguilar, do some more research, please. All right, guys, I'm out. Take care.